Namaste. Welcome to yet another episode of Accomplished Women by Thought Habitats. We covered some legends and we covered some young women entrepreneurs, and now we have someone different. Being, an, being in a very young age, let us say when we all were teens, how many of us thought of becoming writers? And how many of us thought of getting a book published somehow? And how many of us given 100% efforts to achieve that? Our guest today is someone who achieved that. And that is why, even though she is young, even though she is in her college, we call her an accomplished woman. Aasiya Maryam, the one who's sitting right next to me, is an author of two published books, The Missing Princess and Savory Tales. She started her writing journey at a very young age of 10. Ever since then, there has been no looking back for her. She's currently working on two more books. When we all are struggling to write one book, she already published two and she's publishing two more in the coming. Yeah. So you all can understand why I call her an accomplished woman. She has also penned numerous poems and has published her creative writing blogs through her website writerspuram.in. Her life basically revolves around three C's. Okay, so this is not getting philosophical, by the way. The three C's that she says is cats, cheese, and chocolates. Yeah, that's like every other girl out there has a craving for all these things, right? So without much delay, Aasiya, welcome to the show. You know what? You're really a true inspiration to everyone out there. Everyone who's aspiring to be a writer, you're really serving as a true inspiration to them. Yeah. So, Aasiya, I have a few questions for you. So, what prompted you to become a writer at a very young age? That too, when you were like a 10-year-old.
Yeah, my whole family is very much into books. So I grew up watching them read. And there used to be an almirah full of books of all sorts of books, science fiction and horror and murder mysteries, and even the age range from kids till adults. So all these books I used to sit and I read during the summer vacations as a young kid, because everyone in my house was reading. So I felt that I should also start reading something. So I started reading the books in the Almirah. And every summer vacation, I used to look forward only for the sake of the book reading. I used to be free only then. So one summer vacation, I found out that there were no more books in the Almirah for me to read. So I had run out of books to read in the house, and that was a really very boring sort of period for me. And I was just like, I've run out of books to read, so maybe I should add some books of my own on the Almirah shelf. So, and the thing that prompted me to write was like, I had this perception as a kid, I had this perception that doctors were doctors, engineers were engineers, and writers are writers. Not anybody can become a writer. I had that perception as a kid. And my mom changed that perception. In 2010, she released her ebook Project Serenity online. And that kind of, as a 10-year-old, it was like doctors are doctors and writers are writers, readers are readers. But then my mom, who was an IT professional at that time, she's an IT person. She can't be a writer, right? It was not matching somewhere. So I had a lot of questions and I asked her, like, you're not a writer, so how can you write a book and publish it? I was so confused, and I like tortured my mom with a lot of questions, and she finally got extremely fed up of me. And she said, anybody can write. Okay. It's not that writers have to write, whoever writes becomes a writer. So that totally changed my perception, and I was like, oh, then if I write, then do I also become a writer? And she said, obviously. And then I was like, that didn't make sense to me. I'm a reader, I'm not a writer. So I asked her that. And I'm just a 10-year-old kid. My mom was like, if you start writing, you're a writer. So that totally changed my perception. So I was like, can I be a reader and also be a writer? She said, you can be anything and still be a writer. So that kind of changed my perception a lot. And I sat up the whole night coming up with a short story as a 10-year-old. I stayed up the whole night, and by morning, I when morning came, I sat down. I took 2 hours to write the short story, perfected, edited again, and then edited some more, and then take a fresh page and rewrite everything ekdam perfectly, very neatly. And then I was so proud of my work. I had written for the first time as a kid, and I was so proud of my work. And I showed it to my grandmom, who was not at all, she was very passive in her encouragement. So that is what all these prompted me to
Yeah.
become a writer.
Yeah, I mean, like your mom got so much fed up with your pestering that she said, "You better become a writer than start questioning me again on this."
Yeah.
That's really interesting. Yep. And Asia, so as you said, you became a writer at a very young age, and then you wrote and rewrote, rewrote, and you kept on doing it, and then you crafted your first book, right?
Yeah.
So when you were writing your first book, so you must have come across a lot of challenges, right? So, writing is not a one-time journey. As you said, I wrote, I rewrote, and I had to edit it multiple times and I had to change it. So, would you like to say, I mean, was there a challenge? I mean, was it a challenge that was only regarding writing and editing, or was there something beyond that?
Um, Writing and editing, I feel, are the easiest for me. It's the main obstacle that I faced in my writing journey is definitely my grandmother. She she's like a lecturer and a teacher, and she has taught so many people. So when I wrote my very first short story, and it's even in my book Savory Tales, it's the very first short story in my Savory Tales book. And as a 10-year-old kid, when I wrote for the first time and I showed her that piece, right, was like she started pointing out the mistakes in my writing. She wasn't like, oh my god, a 10-year-old has written something. She didn't have that sort of thought. She was like, it felt like I had submitted my homework assignment to her, and she was just like pointing out all the mistakes in my work. I was like, so what did I do wrong? Like, I just wanted to write, and I showed it to other people, and other people were actually very encouraging. They were like amazed. They were like, this girl has written something at this age. And then I again went back to my grandmom and I showed her, I said her that other people are appreciating this, and she's like, it's not perfect. And actually, I'm pretty thankful. At that time, when you write something, you show it to someone, you feel hurt, you feel disappointed when they critique you so much. But looking back, I'm actually thankful for that, because her critics are what made me want to improve and what has helped me improve so much.
Yeah, so your mother and grandmother have been your biggest critics, inspirers, and a lot more, right?
Yeah.
That's good. So, Asya, so three C's of you: cats, cheese, and chocolate. Yeah. So that's been the premise in your writing, and that has actually led you to write more, right? So, would you like to narrate some parts of how you pursue these three C's, or some parts of your book which has predominantly expressed the thoughts on these things?
The three C's, cats, chocolate, and cheese. Actually, I had gone to a digital marketing workshop with my mom, and there they had like taught us how to market whatever product they are selling. So for that I had to like prepare a bio about myself that was catchy and that is personal and stuff like that. So I they had given us 15 minutes time to come up with that bio, so I had to write something. The bio part was pretty easy, but then I had to include something personal about me, and I'm not someone who is very open about such stuff. And I decided what is something so personal about me that anyone and everyone who meets me just immediately knows about me. And that actually turns out to be the fact that I like cats, that I'm literally totally mad about cats. If anyone just looks at me, they'll be like, this girl and her cats. That's how they'll be. So I decided, okay, I'll just mingle that with other something else like that, because I write poetry and it's alliteration. So I kind of like alliteration as a poetic device. So I decided to come up with this line. My life basically revolves around three C's: cats, chocolates, and cheese.
That's really interesting. And Asia, so all said and done, you've come out with two books already. So, and you're writing two more books. So, would you like to apprise us on the developmental work going on in your next two books?
Yeah, I keep writing. Okay, I cannot stop writing. And the thing is, I'm focusing. I have actually four books in the work, but I'm currently focusing only on two. It helps me in a way that when I get stuck or when I hit a roadblock, if I get writer's block in one story, then I shift to the other story. That way, I get a distraction from the one from the first story. I also get a distraction while I work on the second story. And once I hit a roadblock with the second story, I shift back to the first story. So that way, the distraction helps to overcome the writer's block, and it also helps in building up the other story. So I shift between two stories. It helps me to keep writing.
Oh, that's really interesting. You've given me a tip to overcome writer's block. So, next time I'll try to follow that so that I debut with two books in my name.
Yeah.
All said and done, Asia, it's really a wonderful time. It was a really wonderful time with you. You know, so the way your mother inspired you to become a writer, and the way your grandmother has been a critic in all your written pieces, it's really interesting to know. It is really interesting to come across people like you that is making me go further, and that is empowering me to do new things every now and then. So, all the best for all your future endeavors, and we wish to see more books from you. If you keep writing two books at once, so very soon you would have written 100 books on your own, and eventually 1,000, 10,000, and a million that way. So, all the best. So, we are expecting more from.
Thank you.